Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of our Korra Let's Build that we are doing in Planet Coaster. We're going to be establishing much more of the courtyard, or at least the main one to the right. This island has quite a few of them in total, especially on the left side. The left side has a little bit more gardens. The right side is definitely a little bit more focused on training the airbender kind of disciples that end up showing up, and also of course the avatar. Now, what we have is about a mid-tier kind of courtyard being constructed at the moment. This has kind of an angled staircase just kind of cut into the side there. And this one does look pretty cool. It's pretty interesting to have kind of this diamond-shaped staircase. It's not something that I would even really think to do, to be honest, if I didn't see it and I wasn't really copying off of some reference pictures. And this is also one of the bonuses of doing things like recreations. So when you're doing a recreation, not only do you increase your visual library, but you also just get better with replicating unique things that you can hopefully use in your already established builds and come up with more kind of interesting shapes and layers to things. Overall, it's a big help in the long run. But what I'm going to do is go ahead, establish a little bit of the edge here of the main kind of darker, cobble-y kind of courtyard that we had so far. And of course this one has the yin-yang symbol for kind of like a sparring arena. And we will kind of cap that off. And it does do that little slight bend up and around that top right corner. And the rest of the courtyard that kind of squares it off is a more of a tiled, kind of more sandstone kind of color onto it. At least that's what some of the drawings I've seen. You know, that's the thing with working off of games or movies or shows, is that there's so many different materials to kind of judge off of that you end up having to mission match and compromise, of course, with the design. And also you get to add a little bit of your own flair to your builds when you do something like that. Like the main thing about this episode, Leaf in the Wind, of course, refers to Korra when she's training, initially learning about airbending and flowing with the actual movement of things. And it's totally against her nature in the sense that, you know, she's very strong-headed and likes to rush into things. So, you know, firebending, earthbending is much more of her, I guess, favored attribute. Of course, waterbending, but she is from the water tribe itself. But airbending was very hard for her to learn because it required, you know, relaxation and like accepting kind of the movement of things and redirecting it. This upper courtyard actually has some interesting training equipment in the show. They are kind of these tall, thin fans. A lot of my reference images actually don't have that drawn. And it's pretty interesting, especially because of, you know, Korra destroying it in frustration. But a lot of the times you'll see this kind of covered, almost like a small gazebo with a dome. And I wanted to capture both this episode. So we are building a domed structure, and we are using the roof colors that are matching, hopefully close enough to the rest of the items so far. And to make a dome structure is very kind of a straightforward task. You know, you're going to create a section of it. Think of it as a piece of pie, and you're just going to make it so that is able to be mirrored and copied and rotated to give you the full rotation of the dome. The more pieces and slices that you use, the more circular it will become and more of a perfect dome. These tend to be a little bit more eggshell in shape, kind of more close to, say, the cathedral in Florence, just because of us not having perfectly rounded pieces to make perfect domes 100% of the time in 100% different, you know, scenarios. But overall, it does work, it gives off the feeling, and really that's all we can hope for in games at this point with creative elements. You know, you just want to try and capture a lot of the elements rather than going with 100% of a recreation. You know, I might be recreating the whole island. I'm sure if, you know, someone posted it to like the Avatar kind of Tumblr blog, I would get chewed out about things being wrong and missing. But frankly, you know, this is just fun. This is a fun exercise to recreate something that you enjoy, and you just want to capture, you know, a lot of the main elements and get them into the right spots. So the dome is complete at this point. You know, just copying it, rotating it around, gave it a nice kind of golden dome decoration atop it. You know, very simple, kind of almost like a meditative area where you can meditate and then practice elsewhere on this kind of upper deck area, which will house the other training equipment that I was talking about a bit earlier. This one is just shown up in a lot of the images that I use to make this whole series, that I figured might as well put it in there in case someone points that out. And plus, it does add a little bit of charm. Nice thing about building this here is that we are able to move it all in one solid piece and fit in a nice little lantern just in the middle there, which does, you know, provide a little bit of light. I haven't touched any lighting yet in the build, simply for FPS reasons, but we can copy this whole piece by just grabbing the tile set 2, and that's going to keep it nice and centered on those tiles that we are moving it around in. You know, I don't have to worry about using the refined movement tools as much in those cases. This upper plaza is also rotated and slightly curved along its edge, and it will eventually be kind of the final concrete on this top right corner before it moves to mountainside in nature and will hopefully look very beautiful in the long run. Now, this raised platform here, this is the training device that I was speaking of with the rotating fans. You know, and Korra is of course trying to feel the movement of the air and kind of naturally move with the flow, and she's tasked essentially with getting out of the center without really doing anything beyond just feeling the movement of the air. Of course, failing and making it kind of explode a couple times. It is pretty interesting to think about, just because this circle, I wanted to do a fancy kind of border around it. I don't think it ended up working out. As you can see, it's a little bit of a lopsided shape at this point, and trying to do something that small with so many pieces, I felt like was just going to be overkill, and was going to draw away from the main feature of this device, and that is the fan blades. And these fan blades are kind of these ornate thin planks of wood with you know, kind of a darker wood and a lighter wood, and of course the airbender symbol in the middle of it. Couldn't really get the symbol in there, but I could add these icing bits as a good bit of decoration on them. You know, move them around, of course. If you guys have trouble selecting some pieces sometimes, what I suggest doing is selecting the large item that you can, and then simply go in, delete that, select what you needed to, undo the original deletion, and those items will stay selected, and that'll provide you a method of grabbing what you actually need to grab. These are double-sided, by the way, and I am using some of the backs of the like stone decorative pieces like the dragon and kind of the more motif like elements to get us the two-tone, so the dark wood, the icing as the base kind of painting on these, and then we can use the Christmas kind of ornaments as the topper, because these are a little decorative and they do rotate, and they all rotate based on the wind in kind of different directions and rates. So, you know, that's why we are putting these on here a little bit more haphazardly and at kind of a random pattern of rotation. And overall, just like the overall kind of effect of it, it just looks really cool. When to get down at ground level, you get to see a whole bunch of detail on these little fan blades, and it would be pretty cool. I kind of wish I could get them to spin, but obviously that's not something we can do. I wanted to also make the raised platform a little bit more two-toned and have a proper border, so we will use some more custom shapes, surround it in the middle and along the edge, just so it looks a little bit more interesting from afar. The final bit of the woman's dorm is going to be added as well in this episode. This is kind of the right side structure, and it is a little bit smaller than the main building that we started with. It is a continuation of kind of the same theme though. So it's going to have a lower floor, not quite as tall, and a wrapping balcony. At that point, it'll raise up yet again and will create kind of the final roof. So it is a two-floored kind of living space here. And to create all this kind of wrapping and stuff, you know, you just gotta grab bits and pieces of the roof tiles previously made, and you can quickly kind of slap this stuff down. You guys have seen this all before. I'm not going to go into like the full detailing of this building on camera. At this point, I'm pretty sure if you guys see any more of these tile pieces being moved, edited, placed and repositioned over and over, you might get bored with everything, because sometimes builds kind of break down into a more method time sink of, okay, I need another roof, I need to decorate these walls to match the other walls, and all of these are separate buildings, and so I end up having to recreate a lot of the tile set as we move forward, just so things can be aligned. You know, I can't really copy a 20,000 piece building too efficiently, so that's why we're trying to make these all out of separate smaller buildings, and hopefully we can copy and paste them later on. I'm not quite sure. There's still quite a lot of outbuildings that we need to do on the left side, which is a little bit more of the men's dormitory and the main living side of the temple, and you know, we'll get there. It is probably going to be about 2 or so episodes until we start working on that main left side. This top right corner is going to be built. We're going to put some greenery here. Then we're going to move on to the White Lotus, which is a little bit more southerly of the plaza. And the White Lotus, of course, being the people that train the Avatar, kind of watch over the Avatar. At least that's their traditional role in doing so. And then at this point, just to finish up the speed build, I wanted to get a little bit of the forest edge. And this is a very thick forest. I believe it's mostly bamboo. We don't have bamboo, so I'm using a lot of these birch trees since they are thin and rather tall. They look a little bit like bamboo from a distance, but you had to be pretty far away to get that feeling. You know, we're just also going to be working in some rocks, trying to cover up the edge of the hard lined surface from the plateau and just blend the natural elements into the area here, because it is just a very beautiful temple. It's a very beautiful space, and this kind of stuff to me adds a nice natural border to our construction. So let's go ahead. We're pretty much done with today's speed build, and we'll take a look at it in real time, and hope you guys enjoy that little bit of the video. Alright, so here we are at the upper right plaza of the Air Temple. We have finished the nice, I guess, final addition. I think there could be more buildings behind here. It's really hard to see in any pictures if there are more. I might end up adding more to the woman's dorm just for more effect, and you know, it could just look cool to make this whole structure look a little bit wider. It's very thin and long here, so I might end up putting maybe something filling in the gap just in the corner here. Could look cool. I don't know. It's up to you guys. I can't really find any good images of any extra buildings here, but you know, the rule of cool I think will always apply, and you know, they can retcon some stuff. But what we got here, of course, the leaf in the wind kind of stuff for the air benders to practice on. in terms of getting through these spinning fans, which look rather ornate and lovely. I'm pretty happy with the scale of them. There are a few, reference images of Korra and them standing about right here, and it does look pretty correct in my opinion. There's some discrepancies in terms of staircases and some placement of details, but I think overall it has that feeling, and really I'm just really happy with how our build's turning out so far. It's gonna be quite the long process, quite a lot of parts, and I hope our FPS can maintain this in the long term. We also have, if I can't maintain my scroll wheel here, we get the nice little gazebo here, almost like a meditative little spot to the side. It's in the shade. It's very quaint here next to a whole bunch of nature and rocks. So I'm sure, maybe even these things, these spinning blades, do create some interesting noise. Who knows? Something relaxing. What we get back here, of course, is the rest of the courtyard. I have a predefined square for some balancing logs for people to stand on eventually, and we'll get to that next episode, but also we'll get to the final little bit on the right side, which is going to extend out here, and this will end up being the kind of White Lotus section. It's going to raise up, and then we'll just kind of do some of the mountainside sculpting, add some more greenery on the right side, and then we will pretty much have this all done, and we can move on to the residential side on the left. So I hope you guys enjoy this large build that we've been working on for the past many weeks. Still many weeks to go until this is all 100% done, but I can't wait. It's going to be pretty cool, and I think this is going to be the best thing I've built in Planet Coaster, at least so far. So that's it for us this episode. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you're new. Leave a like down below, so I know you guys, of course, want to see some more Planet Coaster and more of this build to continue. Leave a comment on what you guys think and how accurate it is, of course, to the show, to your memory, and of course, maybe some of your favorite moments of The Legend of Korra or The Last Airbender. I prefer The Last Airbender, but, Legend of Korra is still okay. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.